going on? Welcome in to another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. Recording on Valentine's Day. I have to see my Valentine for today. My Valentine is currently living in another state, but she came back and surprised me today. I love my Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day to those of you who celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Just Cameron and Lucas hanging out with you today. Fun episode coming up today.
Yeah.
Fun episode. We're gonna chat Super Bowl. We're gonna chat the big game from Sunday. We're gonna chat news and notes. But then we have, this is gonna be our tradition every year. First episode after the Super Bowl. Way too early mock draft because I nearly chucked my phone off the table. Way too early mock draft for the 2023 season. We won't be including rookies in this because nobody knows how to value rookies in redraft currently. So you're going to see how we value this year's players going into next season and the way in which we'll be drafting here. So fun episode coming up today. I'm at Lucas Wentzel on Twitter, at CamLawFFF. FFL is for our main account. The FFL is on Instagram, Fantasy Football Fellas, TikTok, and YouTube. I don't want to waste any more time. I kind of want to just dive into this. I say let's start with the Super Bowl. We'll dive in some news and notes, and then we will transition into the mock draft. The Chiefs are your Super Bowl champions.
Wow.
Final score 38-35. Patrick Mahomes, I think he's the big story here. I just keep looking at this stat line. I keep thinking I can't believe he won Super Bowl MVP. But then I think about it. Who else was I going to give Super Bowl MVP to?
Yeah.
Is this the year like it should have gone to like Jalen Hurts? Honestly, like to someone on the losing team.
I feel like this is the year that it could. I think the only thing that really hurt Jalen Hurts and the reason like I don't think you could give it to him is the fumble that he had that led to a Chiefs touchdown. Because it's a very different ball game if that doesn't happen. But yeah, I mean Jalen Hurts he was the easy MVP if the Eagles won, but like you said, Mahomes was kind of an stat line, only 182 yards. The 44 yards on the ground is pretty impressive though on the bum ankle.
Yes.
And he did go 13 of 14 in the second half for 2 touchdowns. So I think that definitely helped his case in the comeback.
Right. So this is one where you can't just box score hunt.
Yeah.
And pick the best box score player. Because it was Jalen Hurts in this game, by the way, 27-38 for 304 and 1, 15 carries, 70 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. You do the math on that. You add the fumble in there too, but do the math. 41.16 fantasy points. That's like the second highest fantasy score in the Super Bowl, like ever. And Patrick Mahomes, like you said, 21 of 27, 182 and 3. Yeah, 6 for 44 on a bum ankle, though. 2 of those were kneel downs and busted a handful of my plays. I'm not salty about it. I had him at under 4.5 rushing attempts.
Oh.
And of course, the 2 silly kneel downs at the end.
Ridiculous.
Busted my plays over on Underdog, promo code fellas. But that's the story of the game. The Chiefs in the second half just could not be stopped. They scored on every possession. That's what, like, I don't know if you can say the Eagles lost this game, but the Eagles certainly didn't do anything to prevent the Kansas City Chiefs from winning, it felt like.
Yeah, definitely.
What everybody's going to, I have a lot of thoughts on this. We haven't mentioned the pivotal game deciding flag thrown at the end of the game. And I say game deciding not from a place of like despising the call or despising, what happened. It truly was game deciding. James Bradbury grabbed the jersey of Juju Smith-Schuster. What looked like on the broadcast to be just like a very soft kind of hold out of the break. You could just sit there and let him play, but ultimately rest through the flag, holding. Bradbury after the game did say that he held Juju Smith-Schuster. I mean, you threw it in our chat afterwards. You're like, I don't like. if it is the right call, I get it, but like it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. That was what you said.
Exactly, just because you wanted to see it come down to the Chiefs or the Eagles having to march down the field, right? You wanted to see a minute and a half left. Jalen Hurts having to make the drive, and either the defense makes a stand or the Eagles win it. I mean, I didn't care who won. It just kind of stunk that after all of that, we ended the game with like 2 kneel downs and a 20-yard field goal.
And a busted
You just
parlay.
exactly. You just wanted something more. That's just how it felt, and we just didn't get it, which is fine. It was still a great Super Bowl. Like, it doesn't take away from the game as a whole. And I don't think, like you said, I don't think it was game deciding, right? Chiefs were going to kick the field goal anyways. It's not like it switched who was in the lead. So, but yeah, it just kind of stunk that's the way the game ended from like an excitement standpoint.
Here's my take. Nobody's ever going to be happy with officiating in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
One moment we don't want them to call the game the way it's supposed to be called. There are other times in which we do.
Yep.
So when James Bradbury comes out and says, "I held him," and you get the other angle, which is floating all over Twitter now, where he's clearly tugging back on the jersey. Now, whether it prevented him fully or not, like I get it's just a stop motion clip.
Yep.
But people, we got to make up our minds. Do we want the refs to call the game the correct way, or do we want to let them play? Like, there's no gray area here. Either we want the officials to do their job, which frankly they did in that moment, whether you like it or not. You can say it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, you could let them play in that scenario. But to say, oh, screw job. The refs did their job.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it. I personally didn't love it. But I can sit here and say they did their job.
Yep.
If you can't even sit back and say that, if you're the one going out and saying, oh, NFL officiating needs to get so much better, they did their freaking job and called a hold on the play.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be made more, it doesn't need to be more complex than that. The refs did their job. Yeah, it sucks. It does. I wish Jalen Hurts would have had a chance to march down the field. I really do. But if a hold is a hold, the refs are going to call a hold.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more simple than that. Nobody is ever going to be happy with the officiating. So at this point, all I have to say is shut up. You're sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
And if it's a hold and the refs call a hold, they did their job. It sucks. But that's how it ended up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on with our lives. Like, we don't need to sit here and debate this for a week straight. What happened. It was a penalty. The refs got it right, and it sucks. And that's okay.
Yeah. It's one thing, like, if it was in that Saints-Rams game, a couple of years ago, where that was just a huge miss. Like, that's one thing. But when they call a penalty, that's a penalty, even if they've been kind of letting them play all game, those are two very different things. So, yeah, I agree 100% with what you're saying.
And that was the comparison immediately after the game. People are saying, "Oh, look at this! Playoff officiating has been bad since this," and it's the clip of the Rams Saints with the blatant pass interference. The refs made the right call. Let's just move on with our lives. The Chiefs won, and the Chiefs deserve a ton of credit.
Yeah,
they had no business being in that game going into the fourth quarter, down in time of possession, 13 to 32 minutes.
That's crazy.
The Chiefs were dominating time of possession. The Chiefs had no business being in that game, and they found a way to win. And kudos to them. That's what we should be talking about.
100%.
All right, enough of that, because I'm just going to get more irritated if we have to talk about people complaining about officiating. Let's move on. A lot of big news today, right after Super Bowl weekend. Let's move on to news and notes from around the league. Derek Carr, literally like an hour before we hopped on the podcast, officially released by the Raiders. $40 million was going to become guaranteed if they did not release him today. So Derek Carr is now a free man. He gets to decide where he wants to be next season. Early prediction for where Derek Carr lands.
Jeez. I'm gonna say the Panthers.
I hope that's the correct answer.
I just
I really do.
that's what management does is they just find it's like glorified bridge quarterbacks and Derek Carr, he's a lot better than Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, don't get me wrong, but that's this is the route they've gone last couple of years. So I just kind of see him continuing this pattern.
And in the draft, they're not in contention for the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. I keep seeing Will Levis creep up, and I'm like, again, it's CJ Stroud or Bryce Young for me. I don't want to take a shot on any of these other first round quarterbacks if I'm an NFL GM this year. But I originally was all in on the bandwagon of Derek Carr landing with the New York Jets.
Mm.
But then Aaron Rodgers decided to say, yeah, he's totally open to a trade. And I'm going to go sit in darkness for 4 days and clear my mind and come to the realization that, you know what? They're just going to trade me to the New York Jets anyway, so I may as well accept it. You ready for this? Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I don't hate it because he would fit right in, right? Obviously he's not Brady, but you just plug him in the same offense and get going.
If the Colts are out of the market, they already said they're not interested in the Derek Carr sweepstakes, which good for them. They shouldn't be. Carolina is the other intriguing option. If I'm convinced the Jets would rather go all in on Aaron Rodgers instead of Derek Carr, which frankly, if I were the Jets, I would too. There's not a ton of other desperately quarterback needy teams.
Maybe the Ravens.
Yeah, if they don't sign Lamar Jackson, but I don't see Derek Carr fitting into what I don't see John Harbaugh wanting to make a full 180.
Nope.
I think I'm going to say Tampa. I think it's just
going to be the NFC South. Someone in there. Atlanta, Saints, Tampa, Carolina all need a quarterback. So I'm just going to guess.
It may as well be the NFC South. It may as well be. Shane Steichen, we talked about Indianapolis Colts a little bit. He officially signed with them to be their head coach. I think it's a great hire by Indy.
Yep.
I think they need a ripe young mind in there.
Offensive
mind, right. A fresh offensive mind to get things back on track there.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that hire for Indy. And then the other coordinator for the Eagles, defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, 5-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals to become their head coach. I don't know how to feel about this one. I'll be honest. I don't hate it. I just don't love it for Arizona.
No, I agree. I think this is an offensive driven league, and I just think offensive coordinators do better as head coaches than defense coordinators have. I mean, you just look around the league and it's all offensive coordinators being head coaches or former offensive coordinators. Doesn't mean you have to call the plays, but just an offensive minded head coach. And you'd think you'd want to bring in someone to kind of be the Kyler whisperer, right? That would have been my assumption, but I guess not. So,
I mean, when you just fire the guy who's supposed to be the Kyler whisperer, but I think we can all agree that Cliff Kingsbury was no whisperer. He was just give me my agenda and let me run the ball on the 1 yard line every time.
Yep.
Yeah, and just an interesting hire. Their defense was bad this year. Don't get me wrong, but I think there's other ways to fix that defense other than hiring somebody to be your head coach.
Definitely.
But good for Jonathan Gannon. The Eagles will have to do some not soul searching this offseason, but they'll have to fill these new coordinator roles after Nick Sirianni built this phenomenal team when he came in 2 years ago. Dalvin Cook, last piece of news here. He will have off-season shoulder surgery. You want to know what that spells?
Released.
CAPCASUALITY. Cap casualty.
Oh, good work. I would not have been able to spell casualty, so I'm proud of you.
I admittedly thought way too hard, and I spelled it wrong if you play it back. But yeah, that just smells like cap casualty to me.
Yeah.
That just smells like Dalvin Cook's going to get cut.
Yeah, he doesn't want to pay cut, so he's probably gone.
I mean, and who would blame him? He's getting paid more than the franchise tag. Yeah. So Nothing else for news and notes, right? Stayed pretty
Nope.
quiet after the Super Bowl for the most
Mhm.
part. Let's take a quick break then, and then let's dive into our way too early mock draft for the 2023 fantasy football season. Today's podcast episode is brought to you by our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, we love Underdog. It is the easiest place to play best ball formats, and they even have their own form of player props called Pick'em. You can make up to 20 times your money on a single night by correlating props together. 2 picks will triple your money, 3 will 6 times it, 4 will 10 times it, and 5 plays that all hit will multiply your entry by 20. You can even place insurance on your picks too, so if only 4 of your 5 props hit, you still get 10 times your entry. And if you use our code FELLAS when signing up, Underdog is going to double your first deposit up to $100. All right, let's get to it. Way too early 2023 fantasy football mock draft. Cameron and I going head to head here. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, we'll have the whole draft unfolding for you there. Cameron, you have the 7th pick.
Yeah.
I'm at the turn here. Pick number 12. We're doing 12-man PPR mock draft. Is there anything more we need to say about it other than that? It's way too early. These will change. These are just quick early opinions that we have. Semi-reactionary than this year, more than predictive.
Yep.
But I don't think there's much else we need to say other than that.
You'll notice the ADPs haven't shifted a whole 100% yet. Leonard Fournette's still going like the 3rd round if you're watching on YouTube. So that'll work out to our favor a little bit, but for the most part, ADPs are pretty accurate. So it's just a couple players that are kind of in spots they probably won't become. June.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's not awful for the most part, but there are definitely some players I see. I'm like, I would definitely shift a few of these guys around.
Yep.
At any rate, though, let's do it. We'll let the viewer see how this unfolds. Let's begin the 2023 way too early fantasy football fellas mock draft. Pick number 1, Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Cameron, you're on the clock.
So right now, for me, it's between 2 players. It's Cooper Kupp and Travis Kelce here, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think I'm going to lean Cooper Kupp just because, the numbers he can put up are nuts. He's going to have Sean McVay back. He's going to have Matthew Stafford back. So that I'm probably going to go Cooper Kupp. But Travis Kelce is definitely in contention here. And if Cooper Kupp had gone, I would probably have gone Travis Kelce.
I think Travis Kelce is going to wind up being a top 5 pick next year. So I don't think we actually see him fall all the way down here. But I would agree. I think at this point I would go Cooper Kupp still. So I like that pick. Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Dalvin Cook, Travis Kelce, CeeDee Lamb. To me on the turn, I was really sneaky hoping Travis Kelce would fall to me here.
Mm-hmm.
My first pick is easy. I'm going wide receiver. The fact that CeeDee Lamb and Dalvin Cook went ahead of this guy is silly to me. I'm taking Stephon Diggs. That's my first pick. Solidified top 3 wide receiver for me, or top 3 wide receiver for me still next year. I have Jefferson, Jamar. They're going to be my 1 and 2. And then Diggs is going to be my 3. Right. I am almost certain of that going into next season. As long as he's attached to Josh Allen, I have no concerns for Stephon Diggs. Now the board will tell you that one of my next picks should be a Joe Mixon. I am 100% out on Joe Mixon next year. I can tell you that right now. His efficiency has been absolute cheeks the past 2 years. Najee Harris, again, the offense just concerns me. Debo is disappointing. Keenan Allen is disappointing. Ezekiel Elliott, there's no way he's being drafted this high next year. Leonard Fournette. Oh. Hello, Tyreek Hill. I will double down on my 28, 29-year-old wide receivers here. Playing in dynamic offenses, being attached to dynamic offensive coordinators. this would be, I mean, this won't be a realistic start, I think, for people next year, because I do think Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill will probably be top 8 picks next year. But man, if I get this on the turn, this is a dream come true for me, because I have two of my probably top 5 wide receivers next year.
Definitely. For me, next it's I'm between two players here. It's Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown. Saquon Barkley's probably going to be a top 4 running back, so I think I'm going to lean Saquon Barkley. Right, he's another guy like we talked about with Diggs and Tyreek Hill. Probably wouldn't make it here. Right, he's more than likely a first round pick. AJ Brown probably going to go right around the turn, early second round. So I think I'm going to lean Saquon Barkley here, just because getting a top 4 or 5 running back this late in the draft is pretty solid. So I'm going to go Saquon.
Yeah, and for context, in between there, Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, Josh Allen, Keenan Allen, and then Cameron went Saquon Barkley. After that, Ezekiel Elliott, Debo, A.J. Brown, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Nicholas Chubb, DeAndre Swift, Mahomes, Waddle, Amon-Ra, Alvin Kamara, Mark Andrews. Cameron, you have Cooper Kupp, Saquon Barkley. You've split at wide receiver and running back. What's the strategy here?
So the strategy here is, I mean, I feel like I could go either way. I feel like I could go running back. I feel like I could go wide receiver. I don't want to reach on tight end here. I got George Kittle. It says ADP wise up in a few picks. I don't feel like he's worthy of a 3rd round pick right now. Quarterbacks are up, and we've talked about, hey, maybe we should start looking at quarterbacks this early, like a Jalen Hurts, someone who can get you 25 fantasy points a game. I still don't feel comfortable taking a quarterback this early. So for me, it's between Josh Jacobs and T. Higgins, right? I love Josh Jacobs, or I didn't love him coming into last year. He had a great year. I think he's going to have another solid year this year. I don't think he produces quite the same no matter where he lands. So I'm going to go T. Higgins. I think he's still got that same crazy upside. I think he's still going to be in Cincinnati. So I'm going to go T. Higgins here. And then leading up to Lucas went Jalen Hurts, Josh Jacobs, Travis Etienne, Justin Herbert, leaving Lucas on the clock at the turn.
Cursed teammate. They suck. I really wanted Jalen Hurts to fall to me here. Because I'm telling you right now, if I can snag a Josh Allen, a Patrick Mahomes, a Jalen Hurts at the end of the 3rd round next year, I'm going to take full advantage of it. Because I think that is the tier you're looking at that probably sits above the rest in terms of fantasy points. Those top 3 are going to be within 15 points of each other. And then the gap between whoever's at 3 to probably Joe Burrow, who will be my quarterback 4 next year, will be about 25 fantasy points. Joe Burrow kind of tickles my interest here. Part of me wants to just say YOLO and go full out 0 RB here. But there's a name I like. Here's the deal. I know he's coming off of an ACL injury. I can't pass on Breece Hall after what I saw. The 7th in fantasy points per game this year in games in which he played.
Yep.
Now, I get it. He's not going to be the same coming off of an ACL. He looked so special. He looked so special. I was all in on him coming into this year. I said he had the potential to be a league winner. He was looking like he was going to be. Like, can it get worse for Breece Hall? Like, I don't know if worse is the right worst is the best word. That was a mouthful. But I mean, with Travis Etienne, Alvin Kamara, who might not even play next year, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, I prefer Breece Hall to all those guys, even coming off of an ACL injury. So now I'm sitting here and I'm looking at 3 names. I'm looking at Joe Burrow, I'm looking at Javonte Williams, and I'm looking at Ken Walker. I think Ken Walker has the opportunity to be big next year, full-time, having the role of Seattle. I think they have an incredible opportunity to really improve their team this offseason with the draft capital they have.
Don't do it.
I know, because you want Ken Walker to fall to you.
Maybe.
And I still and I have I have hesitations on Javonte. Again, I don't know if I want to roll the dice and have 2 players coming off of big knee injuries on my team. So Javonte Williams automatically is eliminated from my list here. I really think I'm still too much of a believer in finding quarterback at value. later in drafts. Again, if I get one of those top 3 at the end of the third, I'm thrilled. But I'm not going to, as much as I love Joe Burrow, I don't know if he's enough of a difference maker when, frankly, I could probably snag a guy like Tua later in this draft. I'm just explaining all my thoughts. I realize I'm taking a while to just say I'm going to pick Ken Walker here, to have Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Breece Hall, and Ken Walker. 2 young running backs. I'm going to bet on their juice going into next year. And in my mind, I have 2 top 5 wide receivers and I have 2 top 15 running backs. That's how I see this going into next year. I think I'm set up really well at the start of this draft now. Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, George Kittle. I know you wanted Ken Walker to follow you, Cameron, but there's still some pretty good running back names on the board here if you want to go running back.
Yeah, there is. The guy I wanted to fall to me after that was DK Metcalf. I wanted to solidify my wide receiver room. ADP wise, looks like he might fall to me. Joe Burrow's still here, so Joe Burrow, T. Higgins stack is something that I might be able to get behind. But I think I'm going to wait a little bit on that on quarterback. I can't convince myself to go early on quarterback. If I'm looking, I got Javonte, James Conner, Tony Pollard. I'm not like in love with any of them. Tony Pollard coming in and off the injury. James Conner relevant because of touchdowns, but no more Cliff Kingsbury. So then I got 4 guys really staring me down who I kind of like here. Michael Pittman being one of them. TJ Hawkinson, Chris Godwin, and DeAndre Hopkins. I think Chris Godwin's actually my favorite out of the 4. The only problem is we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Right. If I get a guarantee that Derek Carr's coming in, I'd be a lot more happy to take Chris Godwin here. Michael Pittman, same thing. We don't know what's going to happen in the quarterback position. DeAndre Hopkins, we don't even know where he's going to end up being. And then I also got TJ Hawkinson there. So to me, I'm not a huge fan of this pick right here. Just because I'm going to be honest, just because there's just a lot of guys that I could take. For the heck of it, I think not for the heck of it. I think I'm going to go with Michael Pittman here. I'm going to be in on him, right? He had 100 receptions last season, under 10 yards per reception. So I think that definitely goes up with a new quarterback, the certified number 1 in this offense. So I'm going to take Michael Pittman here.
And Shane Steichen. Shane Steichen is now the head coach. You can throw that in there. I think that's stock up on Michael Pittman with Shane coming into that offense. Joe Burrow went after that. Javonte Williams, Chris Godwin, TJ Hawkinson, James Conner, Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Hopkins on the turn, Tony Pollard, Jerry Jeudy, Kyle Pitts. In the 5th round still?
Yep.
David Montgomery, Amari Cooper. Cameron, you got 3 wide receivers, 1 running back. We're entering into that zone where running backs are thin. It's what we would call the running back dead zone. What are you thinking here? You going to give Saquon Barkley some help, or you want to keep loading up at other positions?
So here's where the ADP game killed me. I like 2 wide receivers right here better than I like Michael Pittman with Mike Williams, who I think is going to be the number 1 in this LA offense, and Devonta Smith, who I love Devonta Smith moving forward. So I would have taken either of them above Michael Pittman here. But because, we get caught up in the ADP a little bit, I knew they were down there too. I just had gone through one with Tyler earlier, and so I knew they were lower. And, you get in the moment, you're looking at the guys and you forget. But I'm going to actually pass on both of them because I'm going to finish out my RB room with Ramondre Stevenson.
I was wondering if you'd go that route.
Yep. He top 10 running back last year, and I don't think they're going to replace him this year because I just don't think they need to, right? He can do it all. He's a real solid running back. So I'm gonna take Ramondre there. But I am going to be sad that I am missing out on Mike Williams and Devonta Smith.
And one of them will fall to me. Cam Akers, Miles Sanders, Mike Williams, DJ Moore. Sweating bullets there. I'm not going to lie.
I know. I saw that Mike D Williams, and I was like, ooh, maybe not.
Look, I like my running backs. I'm not taking a running back in the running back dead zone. There are 2 players I am thrilled are still on the board right now. One of them is Devonta Smith, the wide receiver 9 in PPR formats from this past season. I know Shane Steichen is gone, but frankly, Jalen Hurts has figured a few things out this year. I think I can leave it at that. If I can get the wide receiver 9 from last year at the tail end of the 5th round, pick 60 overall. Are you kidding me? Please. And thank you. The other player is Garrett Wilson. Stock up on Garrett Wilson, man. his situation can only get better. He was the wide receiver 21 last year. You give him a dog like Aaron Rodgers. Who do you think Aaron Rodgers is going to turn into the next stud wide receiver in the NFL? Garrett Wilson, offensive rookie of the year.
Yep.
This is a smash pick for me. You look at Garrett Wilson, tail end of last year, last 4 games, 9 targets, 11 targets, 17 targets in week 18. You even get 8 targets, 15 targets, 7 targets before those 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. There is no way you can tell me this man will not be a top 20 wide receiver next year. I have 4 top 20 wide receivers on my team to pair with 2 high upside young running backs. Not high. They're not actually physically high. High upside young running backs on my team. Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Devonta Smith, Garrett Wilson. I'm betting youth after my 2 studs in the first round.
Yep.
Dameon Pierce, J.K. Dobbins, Dalton Schultz, Deontay Johnson. Cameron, back to you. Interesting spot to be in here because you do have a fairly well-rounded core at this point. So you can start exploring tight ends, quarterbacks, other positions. What are you thinking here?
So J.K. Dobbins is probably the only other person I was considering here. Went off the board. I think he's going to come back healthy. Second year back from the ACL. But for me, it's a smash pick. It's Justin Fields. Right. He's the last quarterback who could have fallen at this point that would be able to make that jump into the Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen tier. I don't know if I love Justin Fields for a dynasty as much. Just because the passing still has to develop. But even if he goes into next year and the passing doesn't take a step forward, he's not going to get worse passing the ball. And we already saw what he was at this year for fantasy. So for me, he's a smash pick here in the middle of the 6th round.
I was hoping you would go that route because with the team that you have, I would definitely be going that route.
Mm-hmm.
With the upside and rushing ability that Justin Fields has. Yeah, he to me is clearing away the pick in that scenario with the team that you have. Hollywood Brown, Goddard, Chris Olave, Juju, Darren Waller, Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, Michael Thomas, Kyler Murray, A.J. Dillon, Antonio Gibson, Gabe Davis, all went after Cameron's pick of Justin Fields. And it's back to you now, Cameron. Some really, really interesting names on the board here now.
Yeah, there's four wide receivers here who I think, I can make a case for all 4 of them. First one up is Tyler Lockett. Underrated every single year, phenomenal every single year. I just don't know. He is the hardest one for me to try and pass up on here. Brandon Ayuk, we saw it at the end of last year, but there's just so many mouths to feed in the San Francisco offense. I don't know if I could fully buy into him with the other options here. Christian Kirk had an amazing year, but we're adding Calvin Ridley into the mix. So he's another one, I'm kind of on the edge on. And then Drake London had an amazing target share with Marcus Mariota. But I don't know if Desmond Ridder is going to be much better of an option. So I am going to go Tyler Lockett here, but I think all 4 of those wide receivers, I could give myself a reason to draft them here, but I am going to go with Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, I mean, and Tyler Lockett's going to be good old reliable. I don't think there's another way of looking at it, honestly. Great this year, and if Geno's still the guy, he can still be great next year. I don't see that changing. Brandon Ayuk, Christian Kirk, Adam Thielen, James Cook all went afterwards, and I'm kind of upsetty spaghetti about that because I was really hoping one of those guys would fall to me and I could just round out my wide receivers. Now I'm looking, and I'm not thrilled Drake London's on the board. Christian Watson, I'm not overly thrilled. I don't need to round out those guys, my wide receiver core yet after the 4 wide receivers I have.
Yep.
Because they're just going to end up sitting on my bench. Dak Prescott, I like Dak. I really do. I don't think I would rather take a gamble on a different quarterback here, honestly. Elijah Mitchell, I don't understand why he's here. So then you get some interesting names. Darnell Mooney, Traylon Burks. Look at Rashad White, Isaiah Pacheco, Brian Robinson. I think the route I'm going to go here, I think I'm going to stick with my theme of youth this year. Rashad White finished as the running back 36 last year. Did you know that in PPR formats?
I did not.
As of right now in a 12-man league, he would round out the top. He would round out a running back 3. And frankly, I don't think Tampa brings back Lenny Fournette. I think he's kind of toast.
Mm-hmm.
And if they, they'll bring him back because he's under contract. But like, I don't see a world in which they heavily utilize Leonard Fournette next year. So I'm actually going to take a shot on Rachaad White there. And you will notice all 3 of my running backs are going to be second-year running backs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to round that out with a little bit of consistency, a little bit of age. Maybe I don't know if I can always trust him to be a reliable option, but I'm going to take the guy who scored 17 touchdowns this year, and I'm going to take Jamal Williams.
Oh, all right.
I like, as much as I love DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams has proved that he has a role there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take a man who scored a touchdown statistically in every game this year. To round out, a lot of high upside and hopefully, anchor down this running back room a little bit more. So I haven't even touched tight ends or quarterback yet.
Yep.
I haven't touched that yet, but I love the youth and I love Jamal Williams there to anchor down my running back room, hopefully with a bit more consistency and a little bit of reliability. If any of these guys pan out being a little bit too inconsistent, I think Jamal Williams will remain consistent, just not, a touchdown a game next year.
Definitely.
Elijah Mitchell, Dak Prescott, Christian Watson, Isaiah Pacheco all went afterwards. Cameron, you're on the clock again after going Tyler Lockett last round. You have your quarterback already. You have 4 wide receivers, only 2 running backs. What are you thinking?
So I was thinking for a little bit, maybe I go Pat Freiermuth here. Just get the tight end, get it out of the way. But, just thinking about where tight ends are at right now, there's really not going to be that much of a difference between like a Pat Freiermuth and David Njoku I can get 4 rounds later, right? It's just once you get past probably the top 4, it's just kind of a mess, at the tight end position. And so for me, I'm going to take an upside pick here because I do believe in the talent of Drake London. So I am going to go that way. I know obviously quarterback's a mess. He also has Kyle Pitts on the field. But I do think that he could take another step forward, obviously being a sophomore wide receiver. And just really solidify that wide receiver room. Tyler Lockett was the safe pick. Drake London's the high upside pick for my wide receiver 4.
And I like that. And I'm surprised he fell that far, honestly.
Yeah,
I did not expect him to fall that far down. Things can only get better for Drake London. Can we just be honest about that?
Mm-hmm.
It was never going to be good with the combo of Mariota and Desmond Ridder this year.
Yep.
So things can only get better for Drake London. So I'm behind you on that pick. Devin Singletary, Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Brandon Cooks, A-Rob, Allen Robinson, Pat Freiermuth, Darnell Mooney, Traylon Burks, Kareem Hunt, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, George Pickens. Team 6, what are you doing? That man is retired. I mean, I guess you also have Joe Burrow on your team, so I guess it's just a respect pick at that point. Cameron, back to you now on the clock.
Yeah, I probably should go running back here. But Rashad Bateman's on the board.
Yes.
And I'm still a believer. With Lamar back or not, I think he's still a great talent, just hasn't been able to be healthy. So I'm gonna go Rashad Bateman here. Brian Robinson's right there. Tyler Algier, I could see myself trying to go. But I like who Rashad Bateman is better at this point. Obviously we say it all the time, don't draft to trade. But if if I'm getting down farther into the league and I really want a running back, I feel like I can move Rashad Bateman for a better running back who would be better than anyone left on the board.
I'm trusting your analysis was good there. I'm mourning the fact that both the polls I wanted got sniped 2 picks before me.
Woo.
I wanted the Tua Tyreek stack. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. Damian Harris, Dawson Knox, Tua Tagovailoa went off the board. After the team just went Dak Prescott in the previous round.
Tough.
Miss me. Team 10. You got it out for you, man. And then team 11 went Evan Ingram. I was going to snag him as my tight end this round. I thought I was set up for success, man. I thought I was playing this draft perfectly to have the 4 wide receivers I do: Brees Hall, Ken Walker, Rashad White, Jamal Williams as a running back. I forgot to do it when I picked him. I had to find a way to rope it back in. I felt shame after that, and that's
that works.
Team 10 snipe me. Okay, I'm just dilly-dallying, trying to make up my mind here. Mostly because I do need a quarterback.
Yep.
I do need a quarterback. I'm gonna close my eyes and make this pick.
Ooh, still a believer.
I have to be. I love Trey Lance too much.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I don't think Brock Purdy wins that quarterback job. Brock Purdy had 8 really good games. Really, really good ones mixed in there. I think that's also what happens when teams have no film on you and you're Mr. Irrelevant and nobody thinks of you until you're actually forced into the game.
Yep.
I just think I don't. San Francisco gives up the draft capital they do. Like, I know we all say, well, Kyle Shanahan don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Kyle Shanahan has limits at some point.
Yep.
I think giving up 3 first-round picks is a limit there.
Yep.
So I am going to go Trey Lance. I'm going to come back, and I am going to take the starting running back for this team. I'm not super thrilled. Oh, shoot. You know what?
Pivot.
I am, and it's going to piss you off because I know this is what your next pick is going to be. I already know it's your next pick. Actually, I don't know if it is because you still like Rashad Bateman. Here we go. The team of my draft is youth, baby. Jameson Williams.
You're a jerk for that.
I totally knew I was going to snipe you on that. I was heavily considering Brian Robinson there to wrap up my running backs. But you know what? To have Jameson Williams as my wide receiver 5, with how dynamic he looked at the tail end of last season. Look, I know the snaps were awful. He didn't play more than 25% of snaps in any game. I know he didn't have any receiving yards or anything. The Lions don't trade up to 12 to pick Jameson Williams to not play him.
Yep.
I'll tell you, they're playing with house money with Jameson Williams at the end of last year. Do you want to play him and risk him getting injured, or do you want to just get him some field time and then let him get his legs underneath him in a full season when he is fully healthy, when he's had another full offseason to recover? I think it's as simple as that for Jameson Williams there. So I'm going to go Jameson Williams, and thankfully, Brian. Oh, yeah, it's back to you now. Sorry, I went Trey Lance, Jameson Williams. I'm like, wait, I have another pick? No, I don't. Cordero Patterson, Brian Robinson, Tyler Algier, Alan Lazard, Camper. Back to you now. And I probably sniped JMO from you, but also still only 2 running backs up to this point.
Yep. Yeah, I know, and it's kind of getting thin now. There's definitely guys down here that I'm thinking about. But I'm gonna actually snag my tight end here and go David Njoku. I think giving Deshaun Watson another year to kind of get back into football shape, giving him a full offseason, I think he takes a step forward. And I think Njoku really establishes himself as either the second or 2B option with Donovan Peoples-Jones in this offense. So I'm going to take him here. He's probably the last tight end I even like a little bit left just in the draft. So yeah, I'm going to go him here. Sleeper is glitching out on us a little bit. So let's hope that. Oh, there it goes.
Work.
All righty.
Yep. So with David Njoku, Cameron went there. Zach Ertz, Kadarius Toney, Kirk Cousins, Hunter Renfrow, Jerick McKinnon, Cole Kmet, Chase Edmonds. Sleeper lagging out again.
What is going on, Sleeper?
And they're still lagging.
Oh my goodness.
There we go. Khalil Herbert, Tyler Boyd, Aaron Rodgers, Rashad Penny. And Cameron, you're on the clock once again.
All right. Well, like you said, I've only got two running backs up until this point: Saquon, Ramondre Stevenson. So I am going to be honest. I'd probably be looking at this point to go, hey, I'm going to make an off-season or before season trade, trying to get another running back. But I am going to go running back here. I'm going to take Alexander Madison from Minnesota. He's an unrestricted free agent this year.
Yep.
I don't think we've talked about this. I've come over to your side, Luke, because I don't think he's going to get a starting role somewhere, but I do think he's going to kind of be in that mix of, the either the 1B somewhere or in a 50-50 timeshare, or even a three-headed timeshare, but he'll be someone who I think goes somewhere to get some meaningful carries. And so I'm going to Alexander Madison here.
Does Minnesota sign him? They cut Dalvin Cook and just sign Alexander Madison again? Because let's be real, it's going to be cheaper to sign Madison than it is to retain Cook. And after undergoing shoulder surgery this offseason, I cannot spit that out.
Yeah, I don't think it's the worst idea, right? I mean, what you got in Madison. He's a solid player. Obviously, you're not going to want to franchise tag him because you don't want to pay him $10 million. I think it'll depend on the market for Madison, right? If a team's going to go all in, then I don't think the Vikings pick him up. But if they can kind of scoop him in at kind of a more of a mid-tier contract, I do think that he could return to the Vikings and probably play as the starter this year.
Yeah, I wonder if Minnesota actually goes that way.
Yep.
That's something that's hit me as I'm like, wait, Madison's a free agent, but like, what's also stopping the Vikings from signing Madison to what, a $6 million a year deal?
Yep. 100%.
I don't think he fields more than that in free agency. That's for sure.
No.
Elijah Moore. So yeah, you may have just snagged a top 12 running back all the way in the back end of your draft. I actually really, really love that pick. Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's a sneaky good pick. Mike Gesicki, Robert Woods. All right, here's the deal. We got 3 more rounds. I don't have a tight end. And frankly, I need a quarterback other than Trey Lance that I know will have a starting job next year. I don't know if I want Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson. Because on the one hand, Daniel Jones is coming off of a top 12 season.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, as soon as Daniel Jones gets a bag, I don't know. Like, I might not even be with the Giants. Can we be honest?
Yeah, that's true.
Like the Giants might be looking for a new quarterback this offseason too. I don't believe Deshaun Watson just forgot how to play football. I also don't believe that.
Yep.
And frankly, with how I'm building this team, I'm going to shoot for the moon. And you know what? If both Trey Lance and Deshaun Watson fail me, I'll go find the next Geno Smith.
Yep, exactly.
I'll find the next Justin Fields. I'll figure it out. I'd rather bet on the previous top 5 upside of Deshaun Watson than the holy crap, Daniel Jones had a top 10 season last year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm betting on. As much as I love me some Daniel Jones, I can't force myself to do it.
Sure.
I'm looking at the board here. I'm not in love with any of the tight ends, and I don't really want to reach down to snag a tight end either. I also don't think teams are going to try and like double stack tight ends on me here. So I am going to game the board a little bit. And I'm going to take a guy who played a massive part in his offense this year. You know what, though? I only have 4 running backs. And I do have Jeff Wilson looking at me still.
Gotta go upside. Go upside.
Who's my upside? Jeff Wilson? I think both are upside.
Who was the other guy you're looking at?
Zay Jones.
Oh.
Zay Jones was the other guy I was looking at.
So wide receiver 3 or a potential, 1B in an offense.
Right. And I think that's the way 1B. I mean, so you think Raheem Mostert is still the starter based on that comment?
I think they're going to probably bring someone in.
You made my decision for me, Zay Jones. I'll figure it out at running back. Part of me also is like, I like taking the deep shots at running backs here. I think it's fun. Like Kenny Gainwell was a guy I loved taking a ton of shots on this year. Ultimately didn't pan out. But that's kind of the game you're playing at this point in most drafts too.
Yep.
Is any running back you're drafting at this point, it's a long shot. It's a long shot. So I'll take the sure thing in Zay Jones here, and wrap out the first 12 rounds of my draft. Stephon Diggs, again, I'll review it quick. Stephon Diggs, Hill, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Devonta Smith, Garrett Wilson, Rashad White, Jamal Williams, Trey Lance, Jamison Williams, Deshaun Watson, Zay Jones. Sleeper is lagging out. Sleeper being silly.
Yeah, Sleeper is not enjoying
Spectrum having an outage again.
I have no idea what's going on. They're making me do every pick.
Jacoby Myers, Deonta Foreman, Daniel Jones. Sleeper, take your time.
Ooh.
Sleeper's going to lag out on us. I can't believe this.
What is going on? This is ridiculous. There we go.
There
Oh,
we
and they
go.
sniped me too.
Matthew Stafford, and Cameron was hoping for Matthew Stafford there, apparently.
I wanted the stack. I wanted this Cooper Cup, Matt Stafford stack
Yep.
late here. But what I think I'm going to do is I have my eyes on this guy earlier before you said it, said his name. But I'm going to take the shot on Kenny Gainwell. Miles Sanders is
Yep.
a free agent this season. Maybe he walks, maybe he stays. I mean, they could bring in someone else. Who knows? But this late in the draft, my running back 4, why not take that shot? So Kenny Gainwell is my pick.
And I don't hate that at all. Let me add that as well.
Well, it is not letting me pick on my phone anymore. So we're going to go here. Sleeper really is not happy.
Oh, my goodness. Sleeper really buried Kenny Gainwell this year.
Yes, they did. Let's see if we can scroll down here, see what's going on.
Kenny Gainwell, Chase Claypool, Jeff Wilson, Melvin Gordon. Frankly, at this point, if Sleeper's going to be this big of a headache, which it looks like it's going to continue to be, here's what we'll do. Who's your next pick going to be? Because frankly, I don't think I'm going to get sniped on my next pick. I need a tight end. So I'm just going to pick any old tight end that's there, and I think he'll probably still be there. Who would your next pick be?
Probably DJ Chark. Just hoping a deep threat like him can sign somewhere, he has big play potential. We've seen a big season from him. Obviously, it was a while ago, but I think DJ Chark would be the guy I go with.
And my pick at tight end would be Greg Dulcich, if he were still on the board. And if I were to get sniped on Greg Dulcich, oh look, here we go. Now Sleeper's making its way around the clock. So I'll go Greg Dulcich, and then if I got sniped on Greg Dulcich, which it doesn't look like I would be, I think I would go Taysom Hill at tight end. So okay, there we go. Sleeper's back now. Michael Gallup, Derek Carr, I jumped a few picks there. Chase Claypool, Jeff Wilson, Melvin Gordon, Geno Smith, Michael Gallup, Derek Carr, Raheem Mostert, Odell Beckham, Sky Moore, Michael Carter, Gerald Everett, Nyheim Hines. Cameron went DJ Chark, as he said, Tyler Higbee, Julio Jones, MVS, Hayden Hurst. And I'm going Greg Dulcich to wrap out my team.
There you go.
Quick recap of the teams. Cameron, you had the 6th overall pick. Why don't you remind everybody of who you picked?
So at QB, I have Justin Fields. 2 starting running backs would be Saquon Barkley, Ramondre Stevenson. I got Cooper Kupp and T. Higgins in my wide receiver positions. Michael Pittman, Tyler Lockett finishing out the flex. David Njoku at tight end. And then on the bench, I have Drake London, Rashad Bateman, Alexander Madison, Kenny Gainwell, and DJ Chark.
And my team from the 112, Trey Lance or Deshaun Watson at quarterback. We'll see who wins the starting job, who I have the most confidence in come week 1. Then at running backs, Breece Hall, Ken Walker, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill as my wide receivers, Greg Dulcich at tight end, Devonta Smith and Garrett Wilson at the flex spots, and then rounding out my bench, Rachaad White, Jamal Williams, Jameson Williams, and Zay Jones. I smoked you.
I don't know about that. I'll take my team any day of the week.
We'll let the people decide. We'll put it on the socials tomorrow.
Perfect.
We'll let the people decide who had the better team between Cameron and I. And I say tomorrow isn't the day you're listening to this podcast. So you can go vote.
There we go.
You can go vote. FFL is on Twitter. I'm debating if I want to put it on my personal. I don't think I'm going to. I'll retweet it from the main account. FFL is on Twitter. That's where you can go vote. The FFL is on Instagram. We'll do a story poll and really get the people's thoughts there.
Perfect.
Any final thoughts you have before we wrap out this episode?
Start mocking. There's no other way to do it. The off season is upon us. Getting some dynasty leagues, make some trades, start drafting Underdog best ball drafts.
Already started.
Already started. We'll be throwing out drafts here, whenever. So be watching for that. Join our Chalkboard. We'll throw drafts in there constantly. So a lot of fun coming up in the off season. This is one of the feels like a dead time in football, but it's one of the most fun times for fantasy football.
100%. And you beat me to best ball because that was going to be my big plug there is we are going to start doing, we did redraft, mock draft here, but we'll also be doing best ball drafts as well. Underdog Fantasy, promo code fellas will get a instant match on your first deposit up to $100. And come join us in some best ball leagues. They're already drafting far too early for next year. And some of the teams I've seen come out of that, the ADPs are whack.
Yep.
Some of those ADPs are whack, and you can really take advantage right now and win yourself some serious money next year. So, again, promo code fellas, join our chalkboard. That's down in the description of the audio podcast or YouTube video you are listening to. Our chalkboard will always get first dibs on drafts, on any exclusive content we put out that doesn't make our normal socials. We normally do like our each of our 3 favorite player props for the week, but we'll put a whole list of them over on Chalkboard. Our rankings, weekly rankings we put on Chalkboard. We're gonna start doing some off-season NFL draft content. That'll all be on our Chalkboard. That's going to be like our group chat this entire offseason. So yes, go join our Chalkboard, go join Underdog Fantasy so you can get in on drafts with us. Promo code fellas there. We'll get a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. That wraps out another episode of the Fantasy Football Fellas podcast. We'll get Tyler back one of these days. Tyler's just got to quit being such a nice guy and quit coaching. I love the guy, but he's for the kids, man. Two Stooges being dudes, Fantasy Football Fellas. We will see you all later this week. We're discussing Dynasty rankings later this week.
Yes, we are.
Diving into Dynasty rankings. We will see you then. Deuces.